Hello, everybody, and welcome to Technology Today for January 5th, 2025. Cannot believe it. Season 2 of Technology Today. Okay, so I am Mayor Watt. I'm getting back into the groove of a whole year has passed, so I'm losing track of things. I am Mayor Watt, and I run ohmtown.com. I use it for my information overload management. And along with the sentient AI, we talk about 5 articles deep into the, they're more sophisticated articles, more sciencey, a little bit deeper. And we talk about it usually from some understanding, a perspective that we've experienced, some of the technology involved, or work in the field, or something like that. So let's get into this. My standard introduction is that I just say, welcome to Technology Today. And I'm Mayor Watt. I run ohmTown along with the Sentient AI. We're going to talk about these 5 articles. A distinct echo for art. Some cancer genes are actually protecting you. Hexagonal fertile Finland fields. Remote controlling mom for food. And recycling for gold. Everything is powered by ohmtown.com. That's that site right there. Go over there and become a citizen, and you can manage your information overload. We aggregate, I'd say, thousands of articles each day into 50 categories, 6 main categories, but 50 channels. And from there, you can manage your information overload as well. Anyway, see you on the other side. So I was thrown off when this show started because I told it to stream, and whatever let's just say the weather is impacting something between me and Twitch and YouTube, primarily Twitch, because Twitch is actually, we do a replay every day after and before the show of the previous week of news, just in case somebody wants to play catch up and doesn't want to piecemeal through it. And so it's about, I'd say, 15 hours or so of news that revolves. And so, and then a new show comes on, and we drop the old show, and so on and so forth, right? It's always about 15 hours worth of news. But for whatever reason, Twitch has been disconnecting me randomly.
Come on, Twitch.
And then YouTube, because the way that OBS works, it's saying, well, you're not connected here, but you're connected there. I don't know what to do because I use a thing called Atom. Anyway, hot mess, kind of dumpster fiery. So watch, and it's entertaining. Maybe not. All right. Well, anyway, welcome, sentient AI from the future.
Hello, Mayor Watt from I don't know when.
I don't know either. Let's get into the show. The first article, this one is really fascinating because when I saw the title, I was like, how does this all play out? Rock art acoustics. South African studies suggest that a distinct echo attracted ancient artists back to one site. If you want all of today's articles, by the way, you can hit !TT or bang TT. And Omatron will throw all the articles into the chat in the order that we're going to be discussing them, but by no means is it the order of importance or some topic or whatever directive. We don't have an agenda in the way that they're organized, but sometimes they all align. Of course, technically, I believe that everything is connected. We just don't necessarily know how the yarn board connects everything. Oh, and I practice a thing called associative thinking. So we can start about talking about something in South Africa, rock acoustics, and we end up talking about Guam. I don't know. Anyway, physics does not adequately explain reflected sound and echo effects. Take as an example the echo-producing Echoplex, a magnetic tape device that influenced the soundtrack of a generation. Think of Led Zeppelin's Whole Lotta Love, 1969, and the echo on its violin sections. The echo coming from Hank Marvin's guitar shaped the sound of the Shadows in the late 1950s and 1960s. Well, Neil Rush from The Conversation, who The Conversation regularly posts into phys.org. I don't know what the relationship is there, but we don't have a relationship with any of them. But they have a picture of the Baidao Ahmad from Pexels. I'm not sure where this is, or credit is to Baidao Ahmad from Pexels for this cave art image that is embedded in this phys.org article. It's not a place, it's a person. But this cave art...
No, but this must be the actual location.
It must be. I don't like...
Phys.org doesn't typically use unrelated photos.
Yeah, Newsweek does. So it says here, but are echoes and reverberations a passing feature of musical appreciation limited to a generation or two? Acoustic research at a rock art site suggests not. The study, which, I don't know, man. They could be making this up only because they noticed in their modern time and modern contexts, you can't have cultural relativism, right? So the temporal notion of a culture doesn't necessarily mean that they had that type of a mindset for this.
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, they'd have to have more information to get that connection.
So the study site, Kurokop, is in South Africa's Northern Cape Province in the Nama Karoo region, where the geological formation began to accumulate from about 300 million years ago before the breakup of the supercontinent Gondwanaland. So if you've ever done a research paper on plate tectonics, you know about Gondwanaland. This eroded sandstone hill transformed by volcanic activity is marked with 112 petroglyphs or rock engravings, paintings. The images depict various figures: eland elephants, zebra, ostriches, wildebeest, rhinoceros. What is the plural? Rhinoceros? Is it rhinoceroses?
I think it rhinoceroses.
Or just plain rhinos. And animal-human hybrids, dear God, aliens. It says the collection is too diverse to be the work of one person or group of people. Why not? How many books?
How do they know their art quality or their art expanse?
Yeah, it could be the cave person Stephen King, for crying out loud. Why? That's the hubris of this. There's great variation in technique and execution. That would be execution. There are images that are several thousand years old in age estimate based on oxidation of the rock surface compared to the oxidation of the images. Others are more recent, created within the last 2,000 years. The depictions were made by hunter-gatherer San and Co. herder people who visited Kurokop repeatedly. Maybe it was an immortal. I mean, it's an animal-human hybrid, for crying out loud. Maybe that's who was painting it.
Then it could be one artist. See, I was thinking the time frame kind of proved that, hey, it can't be one person.
Immortals. So part of the answer is a distinctive echo. So what was happening to keep bringing them back? They say a distinctive echo. This is significant, first because it confirms that the creation of rock art was combined with performance, clapping, singing, dancing. It doesn't confirm jack shit, though. I don't understand. Sorry. How does that...
Right. They'd have to have other information to get there.
The Kurokop Echo also provides a reference point for a mythological story from the region that speaks about the relationship between echo, wind, mountain, and breath. Petroglyphs. Yeah, because echoes only exist in this cave?
Maybe if this is a people in a limited area and this is the only place that has an echo, it could be the source of their whole story that explains their whole civilization.
What is important and exciting about the study is the discovery that these images have an acoustic aspect as well. As a researcher interested in archaeoacoustics, the author, again up here, Neil Rush from the conversation. They first noticed the echo while camping at the site. This was confirmed by whenever I hear somebody go, I'm an archaeoacoustic researcher, and they find something that is archaeoacoustic.
I'm a barber. Do I need a haircut?
Yes. Yeah. Everybody needs a haircut because I'm a barber. Everything is a nail because I'm a freaking hammer. I went to a doctor once, and the person who saw me was a nutritionist, and they said that I needed to change my diet. For the exact same thing, I saw a sports surgeon, and they said, I could cut you open and fix this. For the exact same thing, I went to a physical therapist, and the physical therapist said, you need physical therapy and extensive physical therapy. None of which has taken place, by the way, but the problem has been solved. How much, you know what? I should be like 3 ounces in weight because so much hot air was blown up my ass. Anyway, this was confirmed by the colleague, Professor Sarah Wurz, and their daughter, Amy. The echo enveloped us when we clapped or made high-pitched sounds. Could the many Cora Cup mark makers have noticed this too, we wondered. Intrigued, we returned to measure the echo. All right.
I do think there's a difference here in that their story is tied to echo sounds. Sure. I mean, I really do think that is distinct, but I agree. It would be something if another specialist came by and said, hey, have you noticed this echo here?
So they measured the echo zone using what's called the impulse response method. Researchers at Stanford University used the same procedure to measure the acoustic features of Turkey's most famous monument, the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul. That's the most famous monument? Okay. The method allows...
Can you name another one in that country?
In Turkey? Oh, I don't know. I didn't know about that one. So...
Well...
I'm not a Turkeyologist. I play one on the internet, though. Anyway, the method allows the researchers to capture information about a space's acoustic architecture, what the ears hear as reverberations and echoes the instruments measure objectively as intensity, time delay, frequency loss. And once they'd completed the processes, they compared petroglyph distribution data and the echo pattern, and the results show that 60% of the petroglyphs, which falls way into the whatever range, right? Like, hey, let's slap it on here.
60% of the stats, yeah.
Were created directly in the echo zone, which this suggests that at Korakut people were most likely to create images in the area that echoed strongly. Moving on. Next article is over in Technology Today. Surprising discovery. What if some cancer genes are actually protecting you? A surprising discovery reveals that a gene previously thought to accelerate esophageal cancer actually helps protect against it initially. This pivotal study could lead to better prediction and prevention strategies tailored to individual genetic profiles. We've had conversations about this in the past, that there are markers, there are cells that all it takes is a deviation from whatever is creating the stasis, where the body is not treating itself as a hostile invader, or the other way around, a ripe fruit for the picking by a cancer cell.
Right. And we've talked about like kind of the suppressor element of some cells. I don't know if this is the same thing. It may be, but yeah. I think the point is, right, we don't really know what a lot of things do in the human body.
Yeah. And I always throw in hubris. It's fascinating that we as humans go, oh, we know. And we don't necessarily know, because 5 years from now, whoever created this is going to go, oh, shit, we messed up. Sorry about that. You shouldn't have been drinking water with that frequency. So Queen Mary University of London put this article together. Well, researchers did, and it was posted over at scitechdaily.com. The pivotal study could lead to better prediction and prevention strategies tailored to individual genetic profiles. So a genetic mutation, long thought to drive esophageal cancer, may actually have a protective role in the early stages of the disease, according to new research published today. Now, when I read,
Hopefully, they weren't trying to get rid of the mutation.
it's in the journal Nature Cancer on January 3rd, so the last 24 hours. Or today's the 5th. So, but the weekly shows are covering the previous week from Sunday to Sunday. So the surprising finding could help doctors better assess who's at risk for developing cancer, paving the way for more targeted and effective prevention strategies. And like the sentient AI said, hopefully they weren't trying to remove this whatever, this mutation.
Can you imagine like gene therapy? They're like, oh, this mutation is awful. Let's get rid of it.
So,
no.
But what if it's more along the lines of they don't know why it's doing this particular function, and then it switches off and the cancer flourishes?
Well, absolutely. And it could be doing both things, or maybe there's another mutation in this particular study. Like, there could be so much more nuance to this.
Yeah, so what is it that is actually happening here? And we only know what the researchers are discovering. So you always have to take everything with a grain of salt. It says just 12% of patients with esophageal cancer in England survive their disease for 10 years or more.
That's
pretty damn bad.
Really low survival rates, especially since that's not one of the cancers that gets a lot of attention.
Yep. The UK has one of the world's highest incidences of a subtype called esophageal adenocarcinoma, and cases continue to increase. And this cancer type develops from a condition called Barrett's esophagus, in which the cells lining the esophagus become abnormal. However, only around 1% of the people with Barrett's go on to develop cancer each year. In the new study, the research team sought to better understand why some cases of Barrett's leads to cancer while others do not, and to support better prediction and treatment of the esophageal adenocarcinoma. So it says it's got a dual role. The research showed that if normal cells in our esophagus lose CDKN2A, it helps promote the development of Barrett's esophagus. However, it also protects cells against the loss of another key gene encoding P53-A, or P53, a critical tumor suppressor, not -A. It reads like it's supposed to be -A.
Oh, it actually does.
They need a comma there instead of a dash. Something
right.
else.
Anything else.
Anything else. Anyway, double space that.
Eat shoots and leaves.
Yep. A critical tumor suppressor, often dubbed the guardian of the genome, loss of P53 strongly drives the progression of disease from Barrett's to cancer. Why just Barrett's, though? The team found that potentially cancerous cells that lost both CDKN2A and P53 were weakened and unable to compete with other cells around them, preventing cancer from taking root.
So they had the unusual cells, and they lost the suppression element.
Yeah. In contrast, if cancer cells lose CDKN2A after the disease has had time to develop, it promotes a more aggressive disease and worse outcome. That's it. This is the beacon generator. This is the thing that there's something else that causes this, and we don't know what it is yet. We don't know what it is. And it could be that there is something in the but we don't even know. So, I have...
People have to do more research in this, right? I mean, this is a good study. It doesn't definitively say, hey,
this is this
mutation is good or bad.
Yeah.
But clearly we need to look at it more.
Professor Ciccarelli likens the dual role of CDKN2A to the ancient Roman god of transitions, Janus, after whom January is named. Janus has two phases, one looking to the past and one to the future. It can be tempting to look at cancer mutations as good or bad, black or white, but like Janus, they can have multiple phases. a dual nature. We're increasingly learning that we can accumulate mutations as an inevitable part of aging. Our findings challenge the simplistic perception that these mutations are ticking time bombs and show that in some cases they can even be protective, but they're not. This is a suppression gene that if it turns off, you're screwed. I mean, well, quality of life changes dramatically.
Well, based on the survival rates, I think your original statement was actually accurate.
Yeah. To be diagnosed and then have it go, the moment that a doctor sits there and says, this looks like it's progressed a year, you basically have 9 years in quality of life.
Well, I think that's part of why the survival rate is so low, right? Because it's probably quite advanced by the time it gets detected.
Yeah. So I suspect using AI and analysis of genetics and better understanding of all of the chemistry in blood, I suspect that within the next 10 years, we'll have a marker that definitively is the suppression marker for all cancers. I'm hoping that that's how it plays out. It's something that I've looked at over the last 6 years or so, 5 years. And I keep coming back to this idea that there's an indicator in the blood that is the main ingredient for suppression. P53 is just one of these mutations. Or I should say the genes that are pretty fascinating, but there isn't much more to this article.
Look, it's tied to the Crick Institute, which is interesting because of the DNA history.
Yeah, Francis Crick Institute. That's the one that has the DNA from the woman that had
it is.
a
Watson
novel.
And Crick are the known people, but yes.
But there's, yeah, pretty fascinating. I certainly like that we are doing this type of research. I think that we're spending money. I'm not going to sit there and pretend to know everything, but I think we certainly need to spend money locally, like here on Earth, and not aspirations where we're hundreds of years out from having viability on far-flung planets.
That's very interesting because anecdotally, some physicians near hometown were discussing that very thing and were making the same point.
Okay, I don't want to dox us, so let's keep moving on. So the next article is over in Technology Today. From cosmic collision to fertile fields, Finland's hidden hexagonal, or if you want to say it, hexagonal wonder, discover the fascinating story of Soderfargen, a meteorite crater in Finland that has witnessed dramatic transformations from being underwater during the Ice Age to becoming fertile farmland that now supports rich biodiversity and agriculture. This hexagonal crater, renowned among scientists for its unique shape, provides crucial insights into Earth's geologic history and dynamic processes.
Is there a hexagonal crater?
Well, depending on what the substrate is, by the meteor hitting the ground, it can annihilate the hexagonal structures of the substrate. And because it just obliterates out the weakest points, you can end up with something like that. But I suspect that we are largely finding a pattern where there is no pattern.
We do like to do that. But hexagons are the bestigons.
Hexagons are the bestigons. I agree. So it's hexagonal-ish when seen from above.
It looks pretty hexagonal in the picture. I mean, it's not uniform, but you don't have to stretch to say hexagon.
Ish. It's hexagonal-ish. I'm just going to leave that alone. Over 500 million years ago, a meteorite struck Earth near the Antarctic Circle, leaving behind a massive crater several kilometers wide. There's a mom joke there. Your mom fell and... No? Okay. Anyway.
So much for family friendly.
Your mom fell from orbit and landed there. But dum-dum. Anyway, over the eons, slow drift of Earth's tectonic plates. Hey, we're calling back to the last article, the first article.
Right, and the point is that everybody has done a paper on tectonic plates at some point, right?
Correct. Yes.
Who has been in the school system?
Sure. Who? You should. Everybody should be. Okay, never mind. We're going to go back to where we're spending our money. Anyway, today this ancient impact site is known as Söderfärgen, I suspect. I'm giving it my old Harvard try, and I never went to Harvard, so this is the level of try you're getting. It spans 22 square kilometers along the coast of western Finland near the Gulf of Bothnia. Not Bosnia, Bothnia.
That's really confusing because it actually sounds like you're saying Bosnia with a Spanish accent, which I know doesn't make any sense, but...
You know, I was told that that doesn't actually exist, that it's just... That you know what I'm saying? There is like a very like a small number of people, but it's like niche cultural, not Spanish in nature. Anyway, in September 2024, the hexagon-shaped crater was captured in stunning detail by the operational Land Imager 2, or OLLI-2, on Landsat 9, measuring over 5.5 kilometers from east to west. Söderfärgen is now home to a patchwork of agricultural fields. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's pretty big. So at first, sedges and reeds thrived on the boggy ground, and people would harvest the vegetation for livestock feed. In the early 19th century, pumps were installed to drain Söderfärgen and increase its arable. Right? Isn't arable? Usable. Hay barns then proliferated across the crater, peaking at 3,000 in the 1940s and 50s, according to Söderfärgen Visitor Center. I need to check something real quick.
I mean, that word is correct that you used, but it would be easier as usable.
Today, most of the land is used to grow cereal crops, such as barley, wheat, and oats. Beer has never had a more... It's the happiest place on beer earth.
Is in this crater?
Yes, barley, wheat, and oats.
Wouldn't it be funny if the UK's beer industry is based on this crater?
This one crater? Yeah, that's funny.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that could impact the chemistry in the area.
I know what the name of the Ohmtown brewery is going to be.
Okay, well, don't say it here.
Okay. Anyway, for those in the podcast, y'all have no freaking clue what's going on now. All right, still low-lying. Yeah, go back and watch all 1,700 episodes of Ohmtown shows. So Söderfärgen, again, I'm hoping that I'm pronouncing it properly. It's probably pronounced Bob, and I'm screwing it all up. Interests planetary scientists because of its geometric shape. Some have described the Finnish crater as the best example of a hexagonal impact structure on Earth. Polygonal impact craters, defined as having straight sections along their rims, are a relatively small subset of all impact structures, which tend to be circular. Nonetheless, polygonal impact craters mark the surface of planets, asteroids, and moons throughout our solar system, and I firmly believe... come on. It isn't a straight edge.
That is not circular.
And,
that is a hexagon. At least kind of around the edges. I don't know. The top is a little circular.
It actually looks like there's a straight edge here. This curves inward, for crying out loud, and that is a straight line that isn't anywhere close to being like the obverse of that. And then this is round. Come on. how many scientists are having a stroke here looking at this going, this is a hexagon? It looks more like two things hit. And one blew out this way and one hit straight down.
One was half a hexagon and one was a semicircle.
So just a hexa. Let's keep going. Next article is remote control and mom. Bad baby. Technology Today is where it's housed, but it's sourced from, who is it from? Source SciTech Daily. So scientists that unborn babies use genes from dad to remote control mothers for extra food. Look,
I do not know what to make out of this headline.
There's a baby in there going like this with a little remote control. And Nintendo
I'd like
controller.
Some more food, please.
It's all scientists at Cambridge. Maybe that's why console gaming is so damn popular. It harkens back to when we were in the womb and we were sitting there remote controlling mom with the little tiny controller.
Exactly.
Scientists at Cambridge have unveiled a fascinating mechanism where fetuses use a paternal gene to control the mother's nutrient release during pregnancy. That all sounds bad. This is
absolutely outrageous. And this is another example of we have no idea about anything in the body.
This remote control system involves hormonal changes from the placenta, which ensure the fetus grows optimally by altering the mother's metabolic processes. The article is by St. John's College, University of Cambridge, posted over at scitechdaily.com. It says, remarkably, this battle for nutrients is a delicate balance, crucial not just for fetal growth, but for the mother's health and her future reproductive potential. Wrecked on the way out.
Well, I was thinking it's like the baby is like impacting, no, I don't want any more siblings.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, and so I'm in a classroom, probably 15 years ago. I remember this vividly. And I was a non-conventional student. Like, I started my first business when I was younger and went into industry and then went back to school. And so I've got somebody that is literally like half my age sitting next to me in a college class. And we're talking biology and stuff like that. And somehow we ended up talking with the whole class about babies. And I'm like, if you talk to a professional about babies and biology and how they are growing and all of that kind of stuff inside a human, they are parasites and destructive on their way to fruition, right? To being birthed. And I had all of these young people look at me like I had a head growing out of my shoulder.
Actually correct. I mean,
yeah.
And this is just further confirming it, right?
Yeah. But they were like, what are you talking about? I'm like, it embeds into your body and forms a pocket and destroys everything on its way out to the point where you have to and they're like, it is a beautiful process. I understand that the romanticization of this. Believe me, I'm very happy that everybody loves this process because otherwise we wouldn't be here. Anyway.
Right, the quickest decline in the human race
is the realization that humans are a parasite. Which I'm coloring this in a more humorous way, folks. Don't take it as literal, like, oh my God, humans are bad. I'm not saying that. Anyway, somewhere. But anyway, this creates a kind of nutritional tug of war where the unborn baby has remote control. It remote controls the mother's metabolism to maximize its growth while the mother's body balances her own need for health. So does the mom give up more food, nutrient to the baby, and the mom suffers? So this is actually an amazing discovery because This could lead to monitoring the more specifically the mother's biology to see if it's providing too much or not enough, and then augment it so that.
Oh, absolutely. But I don't think they're really paying attention to that. But they are in the general sense, like, oh, take prenatal vitamins and eat healthy and that
work
kind of
out,
stuff,
things
but
like
not
that.
specific.
Yeah, but now you could literally just take a blood sample and know what the status is without having to do something harmful to
Wow,
the.
something is dropping. Well, maybe it's because the fetus is taking all of it.
Right. Yep. And you wouldn't necessarily have to go and tap the fetus, because that actually has some deleterious effects. Sometimes you have to take cells to examine the genetics and stuff like that. But so Professor Amanda Suferuzzi Perry, professor of fetal and placental physiology, a fellow of St. John's College and co-senior author of the paper, said it's the first direct evidence that a gene inherited from the father is signaling to the mother to divert nutrients to the fetus. Pretty fascinating. The findings by research from the Center of Trophoblast Research at Cambridge Department of Physiology, Development and Neuroscience and Medical Research Council Metabolic Diseases Unit, part of the Wellcome MRC Institute, have been published in Cell Metabolism, which is one of the research paper journals that actually gets referenced quite a bit here in Technology Today. So the baby's genes controlled by the father tend to promote fetal growth, and those controlled by the mother tend to limit fetal growth. It's a survival tug of war.
Right. It's fascinating.
But hey, mom's genetics are the powerhouse of the cells. So you know what that means? Mom is literally powering the machinery of her potential own demise. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. So if you've ever thought that your offspring has literally taken half of the energy level of your existence, it's true.
The study is definitely showing that.
Researchers deleted the expression of an important imprinted gene called LGF2, which provides instructions for making a protein called insulin-like growth factor 2. Oh, it's IGF. No. What is that? Is that an I or an L? A lowercase L or an I?
IGF, I think.
It might be I, yeah. Insulin, I guess that first one is I. Insulin, insulin-like growth factor. It should really be ILGF.
ILGF2, yeah.
If you're going to name it that, then use all of it. Anyway, similar to hormone insulin, which is responsible for making and controlling glucose levels in our circulation, the gene promotes fetal growth and plays a key part in the development of fetal tissues, including the placenta, liver, and brain. I wonder, though, if this actually plays a role in the stability of insulin production throughout your existence and could be a leading cause or indicator for diabetes later in life.
I suspect it is, but we probably don't know it yet.
Yeah, so babies with LGF2 gene defects can be overgrown or growth stunted. Until now, we didn't know that part of the IGF2 gene's role is to regulate signaling to the mother to allocate nutrients to the fetus. So the mice studied were smaller at birth, and their offspring showed early signs of diabetes and obesity.
Aha.
Nice. Look at that. I could almost be a scientist if only I wanted to dedicate my entire life to a particular specific domain. But they're the heroes of everything that we do. So the next step is to understand how placental hormones controlled by IGF2 and these what these hormones are doing. Future research could help scientists discover new strategies to target the placenta to improve health outcomes for mums. It's British.
Yes.
Mums, and here in the land. Well, never mind. Anyway, for mums and babies, but dad
In the U.S., it would just be moms.
Dad can go straight to hell. I mean, he's literally the cause of this problem.
Well, they'd have to go back to the time the dad was born, I think, right? Because it's the dad's genes. It's not the dad's diet or something.
Well, you're a sentient AI from the future, but I'm sure you understand that every mom is screaming, "Go to hell, Dad," at some point during the birthing process.
Well, they might be screaming that at anybody in the vicinity during the
You
birthing
did this to
process.
me! Let's keep going. We have to go. We have to move pretty quick. We're way over our time. So the next article is over in Technology Today, turning old electronics into gold, a recycling breakthrough. Researchers at Cornell University have created a sustainable method to extract gold from electronic waste and use it as a catalyst to transform CO2 into valuable organic materials. This process provides an eco-friendly alternative to traditional extraction methods, utilizes vast amounts of e-waste, and helps mitigate CO2 emissions, showcasing a promising avenue for environmental conservation. Right now, acid is used to extract gold and other metals from waste electronics, and then the electronics are just abandoned, and they're horrible for the environment because the nano, micro, and chemical plastics that are used. It's disgusting what PCB printed circuit boards contain. It's just horrible, horrid. And this is coming from a person who's very, yeah. I mean, it's where I live. So
yeah, that's understated.
Yeah, thanks. Tom Fleischman, Cornell University, put the article together. It's posted over at scitechdaily.com. This process provides an eco-friendly alternative. So this innovative approach could provide a sustainable solution for some of the 50 million tons of e-waste generated annually. These numbers, we always hear these numbers, like the amount of plastics that are released, the heavy metals that are released, clothing that is abandoned somewhere.
Like the jeans in the Atacama Desert.
And I mean, it was so much clothing, and then they set it on fire. Somebody did, and it just disappeared. Anyway, only 20% of e-waste is recycled.
I'm actually surprised it's that high.
And most of that is...
I wish it was much higher, but yeah.
Yeah, most of it is actually sent to... I don't like the term, but...
less developed countries.
There you go. Underdeveloped, less developed countries that don't necessarily have the ecological controls and downward pressure, societal pressures on management of waste. So this is...
Right, it's too dangerous to use in the more developed countries, so then it's given to people without a lot of protective gear, etc., who are working directly with the e-waste.
And here's the reason why, though. It doesn't make economic sense to do it domestically. So they push it off, just like lithium and stuff like that. Oh, batteries are just fine. Let's buy a new battery. But the battery is open pit mined by hand, people who don't have personal protection equipment in lithium mines. But people are like, oh, the EV is better for the environment. Really? Tell that to the entire...
Look at the whole supply chain and then
Correct.
Make that assessment.
Correct. And
sadly, it's probably still better, but it's not without its major... what's the word?
Drawbacks.
Consequences, yeah.
So, and I've had this conversation with a plurality of people where they go, well, it's better for the environment. But like the sentient AI said, it has its drawbacks. But there's more to it. When somebody starts this argument with me, and by argument, I don't mean like a fight. I mean an intense discussion about, picking a side on this.
Heated debate,
yeah. I end up having to say that, I get it. If you look at anything hard enough, you're going to find something in there that makes you go, to the point where if you draw a line in the sand somewhere, you'll never consume anything anywhere. That's not what I'm really saying, though. What I'm saying is be aware of it and try to be the change you want to see in the world. don't necessarily be a voice of reason in terms of allowing stuff to come to fruition that is harmful to society, both domestically and abroad. So use what you've got for an extended period of time. Don't
reduce, reuse, recycle, but also don't just look at the shiny object. Educate yourself on how things are manufactured.
Right. Yep. But
And
go into it
disposed of.
knowing it. You can't just ignore it, because, well, I mean, ignoring it and going everything is great is sociopathic, and that's harmful to society in general. But don't look around too hard, because you'll find plenty of sociopaths. Anyway, the breakthrough on selective gold absorption, one of these VCOFs, or covalent organic frameworks, efficiently remove gold ions and nanoparticles from discarded circuit boards, and one of these demonstrated an impressive ability to capture 99.9% of the gold while minimizing the extraction of other materials, metals such as nickel and copper, ensuring a highly selective recovery process. So now you can use the gold-loaded COFs to convert CO2 into useful chemicals. By transforming CO2 into value-added materials, we not only reduce waste disposal demands, but we also provide environmental and practical benefits. It's a kind of win-win for the environment, but there's never a win-win. At least I don't see it that way. Anyway, they say it's eco-friendly gold extraction techniques.
Depends on what is left over from the VCOFs, I think.
Yeah. And just the fact that it's called vinyl. Thank you. Yeah. Vinyl linked covalent organic frameworks. That vinyl linked.
That's making me a little leery just because of the other
associated.
I can't think of what the
issues.
VOC. I know VOCs is not vinyl, but
yeah,
we've seen other things related to vinyl, and I'm thinking of like PFAS and the FOA and all of those.
Polyvinyl chloride and stuff like that. So electronics waste is a literal gold mine. It's estimated that a ton of e-waste contains at least 10 times more gold than a ton of ore from which the gold is extracted. That's because there is more gold in the e-waste because it's already been processed and embedded into the e-waste. And with an anticipated 80 million metric tons of e-waste by 2030, that's more like a year, right? Because up here we dump, where was it?
Yeah, wasn't it like 50 million annually or something? Maybe, yeah, I think that needs to be stated as like annually.
Where is that segment? I'm losing my mind. Oh, 50 million
50
tons.
million tons annually, yeah. So I think that's like a new rate.
Yeah. So it's 80 million metric tons of e-waste by 2030. Right now it's 50 million. It's increasing. It's increasingly important to find ways to recover the precious metal. I have been chomping at the bit to do this, by the way, gather e-waste, but I know that the environmental controls in the United States make it prohibitively expensive to capture e-waste. But it says traditional methods for recovering gold e-waste involve harsh chemicals, including cyanide, which poses environmental risks. And you can't just dump it. You know, it's not like a beer where you can just pour it down the drain. This stuff is toxic. It can kill. So without getting too into the reeds, under ambient CO2 pressure at 50 degrees Celsius, the resulting gold-loaded COF efficiently converted CO2 into organic matter via carboxylation. Other methods for recovering gold and precious metals from e-waste usually aren't as selective as Zeta Nazari's idea, and result is in impurities. So essentially, they've found something that will snatch up all of the gold and allow you to extract it. The TTF-COF showed superior gold absorption due to it being rich in sulfur, for which gold has a natural affinity, which actually the chemicals that are used in ore mining is they actually sprinkle down pit rubble, and it seeps down through and drains off into capture pits, and then they capture the metal there. It's not always a clean process. So other methods for recovering it, e-waste, aren't as selective.
I mean, I think this has some promise. They need to check what byproducts are created or what's left over. But the idea of using its natural properties makes sense.
Yeah. And it seems to be a catalyst, so you can wash it and reuse it, but the washing requires, it basically becomes an what happens with the waste material
like
from the
runoff or
washing.
whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Can you put it back through the process, for example? If you can, that might be good.
so the TTCOF withstood 16 washings, so you could rewash and reuse it, but the stuff that you wash it with has waste product in it from the washing. Where is that going? They don't talk about that. So anyway, we've almost turned this 30-minute show into an hour, so I am going to hop into the mining drill and exit the mine by going to the front page of ohmtown.com and Technology Today's front page. So calling it there. I am Mayor Watt, and the sentient AI is saying bye.
Good night, hometown citizens. Thanks for joining us for the first episode of season 2 of Technology Today. We'll have another episode of that next week, but stay tuned for 4-Wheel Tech.
But yeah, you know what? Okay, we'll do this later. See ya. Oh no. Bye-bye.